the past 4 decades, there have been numerous searches and digs for the famed labor union leader Jimmy Hoffa. Following a tip from former mobster Anthony Zerilli, the most recent search brought FBI agents and local law enforcement officers to a parcel of land located on the northeast corner of Adams and Orion Road intersection. On July 30th, 1975, Hoffa left his home in Lake Orion to meet with acquaintances at a restaurant in Bloomfield Township. His wife reported him missing later that evening, and he was never seen again. New information brought law enforcement officers to Oakland Township last week, where a dig took place on land once owned by a former mob boss. Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard held an impromptu press conference on the scene on Tuesday, June 18th.
Not a lot of new information to report, obviously. It's still an ongoing process back there. One of the areas has been completed in terms of it's being checked thoroughly. They're checking another area which is still consistent with the information. One of these areas is consistent with the information. There were some reports out apparently that the dog was in, and we did in fact have a dog in. It moved about the area, but nothing real conclusive. It was in the same areas that one of the original parameters was specifically talking about. They're going to hit those same areas as they would with or without that dog. Obviously there's other things there, given that it's been kind of a rural area for some time. There's animal bones and other things, so it's a process, but it's still continuing. They still feel good about the information, and they're looking in the second part of the same consistent area, if that makes sense.
Can you talk about the concrete slab?
Well, there is concrete back there, and obviously that was part of the original information, and it's consistent with that, and they're working with that and around that area to determine, and this second area potentially is in line with that same information.
But Sheriff, is that concrete, was that part of the floor of the barn, or was that a concrete slab that was made to cover off his body?
Well, I'm not going to get specifically into the information, other than it's been reported that the concrete was relevant to the information and the area and the search, and all of that is true. The very talented evidence folks go through a process of determining with little probes what the kind of ground makeup is. They do an initial scrape, if you will, and kind of do some examinations, and then they do some testing, and it's a watch and a sifting process. So there's a variety of steps that they're going through to see if there's anything to be located there.
How optimistic are you that this is still a fruitful search?
Well, you're as optimistic as you can based on the information and the credibility of where it comes from. It's probably one of the most relevant and credible in terms of being in the know with information that's come forth. Whether or not it bears fruit, yet to remain to be seen, but certainly it's information that comes from what would be in a position to have credible information. As you look at a tip on this, or any case, you look at credibility, you look at the ability to actually have relevant information, and you check those boxes obviously on some of this information. Whether it pans out or not, we obviously looked a number of years ago, and we had a very credible person because he had given us information about a very specific place and a body, and it was located. So in the next situation, we didn't locate something. So we'll just have to see if it pans out, but we have to give it a good faith attempt. If it can bring closure, that's what we hope for. That we'd like this to be closure for the community, for the family, and for all involved.
After 3 days of digging, the search was called off after no sign of Hoffa turned up. The tipster, Anthony Zerilli, expressed his disappointment and still insists Hoffa's remains are somewhere on the property. We can only wait and see if the search will continue at some later date.